seems like you had a particular attachment to Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. And this was something that stuck with you for years before it materialized. Were you just enamored with the original book, the novella?
I was absolutely just gobsmacked by the simplicity of it and the sort of the beauty of it.
The Shawshank Redemption is more than just a movie. It holds many hidden secrets and parts that most fans never saw. The actors kept these things quiet for a long time, but now some new truths are coming out. Behind the well-known scenes and strong acting are stories and facts that change how we think about the film. These new facts show us what really happened while making the movie and the people in it. What secrets did the actors share that most fans never knew before? Join us in this video as we discuss the details. What the Shawshank Redemption fans never figured out. Despite not taking home the Best Picture Oscar, many people consider The Shawshank Redemption to be among the best films ever made. The film didn't do well when it first came out. Few people went to the theaters to see it. It came and went, sort of. However, an intriguing development occurred over time. People began to discuss it more and more. Every time someone saw it, they told someone else about it. It was frequently broadcast on cable TV. Slowly, people began to see that this movie was something special. A lot of folks know it for its big themes, like holding on to hope, the importance of friendship, and finding freedom inside yourself. But there are also many little things about the movie that most people don't know. These are things that happened behind the scenes, and only the cast and crew really knew about them until now. In the very beginning, when the movie was just an idea, not everyone believed it would work. The director, Frank Darabont, wanted to turn a short story by Stephen King into a film. That story was called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Now, Stephen King wasn't sure it would work as a movie. He thought it might be too slow or maybe too much about what people were thinking inside their heads, instead of having action on the screen. But even with his doubts, Stephen King agreed to sell the rights to Darabont. He only asked for $1. That was something King did sometimes, called the dollar baby deal. He did it to help new or lesser-known filmmakers. Tim Robbins, who played Andy in the film, said in an interview years later that this deal took off a lot of pressure. It made it easier for Darabont to be creative and do things his own way. Morgan Freeman, who played Red, also mentioned that the big studios didn't think much of the movie. They thought it was small and not worth much attention. Because of that, they didn't get too involved. The studio didn't really know how to sell the film to people. That's part of the reason why it didn't do well at first. But this kind of freedom gave Darabont the chance to make the movie exactly the way he wanted, without anyone telling him to change it. One of the biggest things that made the movie feel so real was where they filmed it. They used a real prison. It was the Ohio State Reformatory, located in Mansfield, Ohio. That prison had been closed only a few years before filming began. It was shut down because people said it was too harsh, and the conditions were not good. When actor Clancy Brown, who played Captain Hadley, walked into that place, he said it was impossible not to feel the pain and the history in the air. Every day, when the actors went in to shoot scenes, they were surrounded by thick walls and tiny cells. That really helped them feel what their characters would have felt. Tim Robbins said he would sometimes sit alone in one of the cells before they started filming. He wanted to really imagine what it would be like to live in a place like that. Just being in there made you think about how lonely and stuck those prisoners must have felt. Even the extras, the people in the background of the scenes, were sometimes real former inmates. That added even more to the real feeling of the movie. The people who built the set were very detailed. They even made the prison walls look older and more worn down, depending on what year the scene was supposed to be in. Morgan Freeman said this attention to detail helped him really believe in his character's world. Each actor tried to understand their role in a deep way. Morgan Freeman thought about who Red might have been before prison. He imagined Red was a man who had once been part of the community. Freeman believed Red used to have a little power on the outside, but he lost it all and ended up in prison. That made sense for the kind of man who could get things inside the prison. He also thought Red saw something familiar in Andy. Maybe Andy used to have status too, and that made Red feel connected to him. Once the cameras started rolling, how did the cast and crew bring all that planning, emotion, and quiet intensity to life on screen? Let's delve deeper. Crafting a legacy through detail and heart. Tim Robbins had his own way of building his character. He said he thought of Andy as two different people. There was the quiet, careful Andy that everyone saw in the prison. But there was also a deeper version of Andy, the real him that only came out when he was alone. Robbins worked with the director to create little things Andy would do, like the way he walked or how he looked at people, to show the difference between what he showed on the outside and what he kept inside. You could see these two sides in certain scenes, like when Andy helps tarring the roof, or when he builds the library. Those were moments when the real Andy peeked through. Making the movie was not easy. In fact, it was often very hard work. One day, they filmed a scene where Red throws a baseball while talking to Andy. Morgan Freeman had to keep throwing that baseball again and again, over and over, for 9 hours. His arm was exhausted and sore by the following day. Additionally, the crew had to be extremely cautious about the lighting in each scene. Instead of being hurried or noisy, the director wanted everything to feel serene and slow. To get it just right, they would occasionally reshoot the same scene numerous times. It was necessary to perform certain scenes numerous times. Additionally, despite the studio's desire for a shorter film, the director refused to shorten the film. He thought that in order for viewers to truly experience the story, the slow pacing was crucial. There were also little symbols in the movie that meant more than people might realize. One of the big ones was the Rita Hayworth poster. It covered Andy's escape tunnel, but it also stood for something else. Robbins said they picked that poster carefully. It wasn't just about hiding the hole. It was about showing how people use fantasies or dreams to cover up what's really going on. The poster looked glamorous, but behind it was a rough, dirty, long escape route. Andy's rock hammer was another important symbol. It was small, but he used it with patience and cleverness. The director said it stood for how smart thinking and slow effort can beat big problems. The music in the film was made by Thomas Newman. It was quiet, not loud or dramatic. That was on purpose. He and the director wanted the music to support the story, not take it over. One special tune in the movie comes back during big moments of change. That melody was made to show that something inside the characters was being reborn or renewed. A good example is when Andy escapes. The music and the storm work together to show how everything is being washed clean. One scene that people talk about a lot is when Red finds Andy in Mexico at the end. Some fans think it might be a dream, like something Red imagines but doesn't really happen. But the director has said that he meant it to be real. He filmed it in a bright, open space, very different from the dark, closed prison, to show that the characters were finally free, both in body and spirit. While filming, the actors became very close. Morgan Freeman said he and Robbins had long talks at night about what their characters were thinking. Bob Gunton, who played the tough and mean Warden Norton, said that even though the movie was serious, everyone on set got along very well. Clancy Brown was actually one of the funniest and kindest people on set. The friendships between the actors helped their performances, because they trusted each other and worked together well. Even though it didn't make a lot of money at first, the movie found its audience later. People started renting it on video. Then it got shown a lot on TV, especially on the TNT channel. Every time it was shown, more people discovered it and told others. Over the years, it climbed to the top of many best movie lists. Filmmakers, critics, and regular fans all started saying how much they loved it. The actors think the movie became beloved not because of any one big moment, but because it quietly told the truth about human emotions and how people survive. Years later, The Shawshank Redemption still means a lot to people. It's more than just a movie. It feels like a lesson about not giving up, about holding on to your true self, and about how friendship and hope can carry you through the darkest times. The people who made it put a lot of heart into every part of it, from the way the prison looked, to the music, to the way the characters talked and moved. And that's why it still touches people so deeply today. There is no doubt that the movie is a huge hit. But this raises a question: how did The Shawshank Redemption, a movie that quietly slipped under the radar when it was first released, go on to capture the hearts of millions and earn a lasting place in cinematic history? Let's find out more. The unlikely rise of The Shawshank Redemption. There are not many movies that people love as much as The Shawshank Redemption. It has a strong name and a powerful story that touches people. On IMDb, it has the highest rating, with a big score of 9.3 out of 10. But when the movie first came out, it didn't do very well at all. It didn't make much money at the box office. One reason why it didn't do well at the start was because it came out around the same time as other big movies like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump. Those movies were already very popular, and people were talking about them a lot. Another reason was the name of the movie. The Shawshank Redemption was not a name that stood out to people. It was long, kind of hard to remember, and didn't grab attention right away. The film didn't make a profit until later, after it was nominated for 7 big Academy Awards. Then it was released again in theaters, and only then did it start to do better. This slow beginning kind of matches the story inside the movie. The movie is based on a short book written by Stephen King, but the movie and the book are not the same in every way. There are many changes in the movie version. The person who made most of the changes was Frank Darabont. He saw something important in the story that even the writer, Stephen King, didn't really see at first. Darabont took some time thinking about the story, but once he sat down to write the script, he finished it in just 8 weeks. After the script was written, Castle Rock Entertainment decided to make the movie. Liz Glotzer, one of the producers at Castle Rock, really wanted the movie to be made. She wanted it so badly that she even said she would quit her job if they didn't go ahead with it. At one point, Rob Reiner, who was a famous director, offered more than $2.4 million to direct the movie himself. But Darabont said no. He wanted to direct it on his own, even if it meant getting paid a lot less. He just cared about making the movie the way he saw it. That choice turned out to be a smart one. The way the movie was directed and the way it looked on screen helped make it powerful and easy to remember. Only 2 weeks after Darabont gave them the script, Castle Rock gave him $25 million to make the movie. Then, the work on the film started for real. The movie begins with Andy Dufresne on trial in court. People say he killed his wife and her lover because he found out she was cheating on him. All the evidence makes it look like he did it, but Andy says he didn't. He says he's innocent. Even though he keeps saying he didn't do it, he is sent to prison. He gets 2 life sentences and is sent to Shawshank State Penitentiary. That's the prison where the story takes place. Not long after that, the audience meets Red. Red is another man in the prison. He goes before a parole board to try to get out. He says he is sorry for what he did, and that he has changed, but it seems like he has done this many times before. Red becomes the one who tells the story. He is the narrator of the whole film. Red's voice helps tell the story in a way that feels very personal. It lets the audience know things, but also keeps some things hidden so that the story stays interesting. Red talks about himself and says that he's the kind of guy who can get you things. That tells us a lot about who he is without needing a long explanation. He also talks about something that happens in 1949, which is a future event in the story. That gives the audience something to wait for. The way he tells the story also helps show how much time is passing, which is important because this story takes place over many years. The voice of Morgan Freeman, who plays Red, is calm and smooth. His voice makes the story feel deeper and more meaningful. The music in the movie also adds to the feeling. The movie shows how the prison works and who is in charge. There's Officer Hadley and Warden Norton. At first, they don't seem like bad people. Hadley hits a man, but the warden acts like that's just how things go in prison. Then the story shows how bad things can really get. That moment is very important. It shows how scary and dangerous the prison can be. How does the Shawshank Redemption balance its powerful storytelling with the underlying flaws that are often overlooked? To learn more, keep watching. The idealized narrative and moral framework of Shawshank. It has now been 30 years since The Shawshank Redemption was first released, a movie that has been widely admired and praised across many generations. Even after all this time, the film is still mentioned in popular culture and often called one of the best movies ever made. Themes like hope, endurance, unfairness, and redemption remain important and timeless. Many critics and viewers see the movie as a lasting masterpiece. However, when looked at more carefully, certain parts of the story and the way characters are shown deserve further thought. Some important points arise when the film's deeper meaning and moral lessons are examined, even though it succeeds in many ways overall. The way the prisoners are shown in The Shawshank Redemption is made to make the audience feel sympathy for them, especially for the main characters. People like Andy Dufresne and Ellis "Red" Redding are always shown as smart, honest, and aware of their feelings. Their characters show qualities like strong morals, patience, loyalty, and dignity, even when they face unfairness and harsh treatment. This constant way of showing the prisoners seems to be a choice to make viewers care about people who are serving time in prison, even if many are there for serious crimes. On the other hand, the prison workers, such as the warden, guards, and other staff, are shown as mostly bad. The warden is shown as tricky, dishonest, and having no real morals. He uses religion in a false way to defend his own selfish actions, and is later shown to be a criminal and a liar. The main guard is shown as very violent, cruel, and not caring about the prisoners' well-being. When these characters are looked at together, the story draws a clear line between the good prisoners and the bad people in charge. While this way of telling the story helps make it more dramatic, it gives a much too simple picture of what real prisons are like. People in these spaces have much more hard characters in real life. Not every prison guard is a liar, and not every prisoner is good or innocent. The film's use of this simple good and evil style controls how it goes deeply into the ideas of justice, change, and power in prison systems. Also, regardless of the fact that Andy's escape from Shawshank Prison is an interesting story, there are some parts that are hard to believe. His action and strategy are so much dependent on chance. It doesn't seem possible that Andy would get equipment like the rock hammer and dig a tunnel for years without anyone finding out, especially since the prisoners are always watched. The way he hides the tunnel behind a poster, while famous in movies, seems unrealistic because prisons have regular checks, and the buildings are built in ways that make hiding such things difficult. The ending, where Andy escapes and reveals the warden's corruption, is a strong and satisfying part of the story. Still, it also continues the movie's idea of rewarding smart individuals, but ignores the bigger problems in the system that cause many of the unfair situations in the film. Since there is no real change to the prison system after these events, the movie shows that personal success is possible, but real system-wide change does not happen. This weakens the social message the movie seems to want to share and puts all attention on personal victory rather than holding the whole system responsible. What are the key differences between the film and Stephen King's original novel, and how do these changes affect the story? Let's take a closer look. Characterization, symbolism, and systemic oversights. The film's depiction of friendship, particularly that between Andy and Red, is another consideration. The sentiments in the film heavily rely on this friendship. Because they respect one another and have experienced a lot together, their friendship gets stronger over time. Despite the fact that prison is a very difficult and harsh place, the film frequently depicts their friendship as a symbol of strength and hope. However, this friendship is a bit too ideal, despite the fact that it feels genuine and heartwarming. The movie does not show much about other things that happen in prison. Things like problems between races, gangs, or the mental pain that prisoners may feel are mostly not shown or talked about. Because of this, the prison is mostly a place for the characters to change, not a place that the movie wants to explain deeply. Also, the story is mostly told from Red's side. We hear what Red thinks in the voiceover, which helps us understand Andy and what happens to him. But because the story is told this way, we only see things from Red's eyes. This means we do not get to know about other prisoners or their feelings. So, the movie misses a chance to show what prison life is really like for many people. This choice to only show Red's view makes the movie focus on one person's story instead of showing bigger problems that happen in prisons. The movie talks a lot about hope. This idea is shown in what the characters say, the choices they make, and things that stand for hope in the movie. The last part of the movie shows that keeping hope is a way to fight and stay alive. Many people like this message, but some may think it is too simple. The hope in the movie is shown as a way for one person to fix big problems, but it does not show that hope by itself cannot fix big unfair systems or why people go to jail in the first place. The movie also shows a certain idea about justice. Andy Dufresne is shown at the end to be innocent of the crime he went to prison for. His being in prison for a crime he did not do is the main unfair thing in the story. But telling the story about an innocent man makes it easy for the audience to like and support him. This way of telling the story works well, but it does not talk about harder questions. For example, how does the justice system treat people who did commit crimes but still need help or a chance to change? By focusing on a man who was wrongly sent to prison, the movie does not talk about these harder truths. The story moves forward in a straight line, but stops sometimes for Red to remember and talk about things. These parts help us feel the mood and learn more, but they also make the story feel very controlled. There is little room to think about the story in different ways. The story is made to make the audience feel certain things and to believe one clear message. This way of telling the story is good for being clear, but does not leave much space for thinking deeper. The movie uses some symbols that are important. Things like the small rock hammer, the pictures on Andy's cell wall, and the Bible that hides the tool to escape all mean hiding secrets, faith, and fighting back. These symbols fit well in the story and add more meaning. But some people may think these symbols are too easy to understand and make the movie's message too clear. From a technical point of view, the movie is done very well. The camera work, music, how fast the story moves, and the acting are all done carefully. Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman act very well and make the story better. Now that we know this background, what made Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins come together to make this famous movie? Keep watching to learn more. Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins reflect on the Shawshank Redemption. Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins got together again recently. They had a nice breakfast earlier that same day, and then they talked about their time working on the movie The Shawshank Redemption. They also talked about when Morgan performed in a play at the Actors Gang Theater in Venice, which Tim went to see. It was a friendly and warm conversation. Tim said that Morgan is a good friend, and he didn't say anything bad about Morgan's work. They laughed about how hard it can be to say nice things about a friend's acting if it's not really very good. They joked and shared a few laughs about how they had fun working together and how they had lots of energy on stage during performances. They remembered how they learned their lines and how it felt to be part of creating something new and interesting. Morgan talked about the first time he read the script for Shawshank. He remembered going to a place called Castle Rock for an interview, where they showed him pictures of different actors who might play the part of Andy Dufresne. Tim said he really liked the script because it stayed mostly the same from start to finish, which doesn't happen very often in making movies. He also talked about Morgan's talents beyond acting, saying Morgan is also a good writer and director. Tim told Morgan that he was acting in a play called Topsy-Turvy at the Actors Gang Theater in Culver City, and the play was going to start on May 9th. They talked about a few times when they didn't agree on some ideas, but that happens a lot when making movies. It's normal. They liked working together and had fun on set. They told stories about filming in Ohio, including one about Tim staying at a dentist's house, who was a Seventh-day Adventist. Tim also talked about how he survived a tornado while they were filming. Tim shared a story about getting hurt after filming. He said he fell off a horse on ice in Mansfield, Ohio, and hurt his foot badly. The injury was serious, and it stayed that way forever. This happened soon after they finished filming in 1992. The movie came out 2 years later in 1994. They talked about a famous scene where Tim's character has to crawl through a river of nasty sludge. Tim said the sludge wasn't as bad as falling into a river full of cowpea, which happened to him once on a farm. That was really gross, and he needed a toxicologist to make sure he was safe. He also said they had to take lots of showers on set because of that. Morgan and Tim said the last scene in the movie was filmed after most of the filming was done. They talked about the beach scene filmed in St. Croix. Tim remembered sailing there from Virgin Gorda for that scene. They said the movie didn't make a lot of money right away, but became more popular over time. It won awards, and more people started to love it. Morgan and Tim said the movie means a lot to people. Tim told stories about meeting working-class people who told him how important the movie was to them. They said the movie's power comes from showing true friendship and hope. These are things that many people can understand and feel. They were asked about the famous posters of Rita Hayworth, Marilyn Monroe, and Raquel Welch in the movie. Morgan surprised everyone by saying his favorite was actually Carole Lombard. They also explained how the poster Andy uses to hide behind is put up in a way that lets him get behind the wall quietly. In the end, Morgan and Tim praised each other's acting. Morgan said he liked Tim's role in Mystic River. Tim said he liked Morgan's acting in Street Smart and remembered when Morgan was on the kids' show The Electric Company long ago. They finished their talk by saying it was nice to spend a little time together again. They both agreed that The Shawshank Redemption has become something very special that many people still love today. What is your opinion on the cast of the movie Shawshank Redemption? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.